The second track is all about the Feynman point. The Feynman point is the place in pi where you have 6 nines in a row, the first time you see 6 nines in a row. And Emma's interpretation of this is, my oh my, 9 o'clock, my oh my, etc., oh, etc., almost, oh, more, oh, almost, etc., oh, etc., oh, 9 o'clock, oh, more, oh, and so on, and so on, and so on.
It's probably written about 9 p.m. on a Sunday night, I'd say.
In Amsterdam time. Why does this sound a little bit like something from Alice in Wonderland? Why does it sound a little bit like humor? Well, Feynman Point is a very interesting place in pi because Richard Feynman, at some point I think he memorized pi to quite a lot of decimal places, maybe 380 or something. And he said, well, I didn't want to go on keep memorizing it, but it would be really interesting to memorize pi up to the first time you see 6 nines, because then you could recite it ending in a 999, 999, and so on. So the way we're approaching the Feynman point is all about the nines. We're using the nines as a way to demarcate runs of digits that are themselves in between single nines. So there is 5 digits before the first 9, 6 digits before the second 9, and so on. And then when we hit 99, something special happens. What are these markings? What is BM9? And
sure. So there are, I believe, 6 99s between the start and the Feynman point.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry,
yeah.
So there's 5 99s. And we kind of decided that it would be a good idea to articulate those 99s, those double digits. And to do that, we used this chord, which is a B minor 9 chord. And that, should I write out the notes?
Sure.
We've got a B, we've got a D, we've got an F sharp, we've got an A, and we've got a C sharp. The reason that we chose B is because several reasons. A is kind of the first note of the musical alphabet. It's also coincidentally the lowest note on the piano. So we thought if we're playing the 9th note of an A scale, that's going to give us a tonal center of B. So the majority of this piece is, it's not really outlining a tonality, like a major or minor tonality. It's a little bit Phrygian, I guess. So when we get to these 9 nines and we hear this B minor tremolo between the 2 hands in the piano, it stands out texturally and also tonally, harmonically from the rest of the piece. So whenever you hear the tremolos in the between the hands, we're at a 9/9 point.
Okay. So just for those who are not familiar with chord notation, so this symbol BM9 is basically gives you the recipe for what the notes are. B is the root or the tonic, and then each of these notes corresponds to an interval away from the root. So that is a minor third, right?
Correct.
Because it's a minor chord, so that determines its quality. Then F sharp. The fifth, then we have the 7th.
Yep, the minor 7th.
The minor 7th, and then the 9th, which is C sharp. And so you see the chords are pulling in. There's an 11th, there's a 13th, which ends the score. This score is a...
Sorry, before we flash away. So just one other note about the sums of the digits between the 9s. So those sums were used to generate the time signatures.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's a great point. Let's take a look at the time signatures.
Here it is.
Here's the score.
Here's Martin's beautifully produced.
No, this is just letting me go to my head. I don't know how many times Sibelius crashed. So this score, as you'll see, looks quite a lot different from 314 score. There's a lot more structure to this. Notes have different duration. In fact, they have funky duration like this that goes from an 8th note to a 16th. We'll talk about that. There is a lot of other markings. There is bar lines, which you didn't see before. There are time signatures. There are these, what looks like a fraction. It's not really a fraction. And so that's what Greg was pointing to, that these time signatures, 5/16, so that means there's 5 pulses and in this bar, and each pulse is a 16th note long. That corresponds to those 5 digits that were seen before the first 9. Then the next set of digits before the next 9, there's 6 of them, so you see 6/16ths, 1/16th, and so on. So throughout the score, you'll see those.
So essentially, every bar line represents a 9.
Every bar line is a 9, but the beginning is kind of mysterious. Well, freely without meter seems very, very permissive, doesn't it?
It is intentionally so.
So you can play this at any speed.
Yeah, I guess so. You can. This is where the performer gets to interpret what's on the score. This looks like a very maybe not severe, but it looks like an objective thing. It's really not. Music is not objectively interpreted. It's very subjectively played through a performer. So this is just a guide for the performer.
This is, and so what is depress keys silently? How does this begin?
Yeah.
Why 8/16? What's happening here?
So the notation here is telling the pianist to press the keys, these pitches down here, which are all Bs, without making the hammers hit the string so that it makes an audible sound. And then you depress the pedal. And that kind of sets up this kind of resonance chamber within the piano, because these notes are going to ring. You can see the pedal is just held until the very end here of this section. So those notes are going to kind of resonate through all of this musical material here.
So this is
it's a subtle detail.
Pedal.
Pedal, which is the sustain pedal.
Okay.
So it's a subtle detail, but it kind of adds a harmonic richness to the sound.
And so as we go on to our way to this funky looking thing, what's happening with these beams on the notes? They look like they're starting like 16ths and ending as starting as 8ths and ending as 16ths.
Yeah, so that's a really good way of describing it. So this is some slightly unusual notation that is telling the performer to gradually increase the speed and then decrease the speed through this bar. As well as increase the dynamics and then reduce the dynamics.
That's a lot of instructions for the performer. They have a lot to think about.
But I think it's a very kind of natural, intuitive kind of musical gesture.
Okay, so then when we get to our first double 9,
indeed,
we get to a B minor 9th chord.
Correct.
There is a lot going on here. What's happening here?
It looks a bit of a mess, but this is essentially your left hand of the piano, and then that's your right hand. This notation here is the triple lines is telling the pianist to rapidly alternate between the two hands. It's what's called a tremolo.
Okay.
And you can see we're getting louder. We're crescendoing to a forte. And this is a very distinct musical idea from what's come before it. So the idea is that denotes the double 9s.
So the Feynman point doesn't rigorously encode digits the way that 314 did.
No.
It uses parts of the digits of pi, the 9s, to demarcate musical ideas. So how did you come up with...
And also musical form.
Form. How did you come up with the ideas? What was guiding the development of these ideas?
The whole premise of this piece is that it's a joke. So that determined a quick tempo. So quaver equals 300 or eighth note equals 300. It's very sprightly. So it has this kind of rhythmic, jocular kind of nature to the music. You can see the time signature is constantly shifting every bar, which kind of gives the piece a bit of an unsettled feeling. Like it's difficult. There is no kind of strong one.
The phrases don't get a chance to establish themselves and repeat.
There is some repetition. You can see that like we're playing in the left-hand groups of 2s and 3s, but it's not in a strictly repetitive kind of way.
And we're not being unfriendly to the performer. You'll see these time signatures appear at the end of the bar, which I was going to say portend, but perhaps maybe forebode would be a better word. A change. These are cautionary time signatures. So you'll get Sometimes you'll see clefs here. If there's a clef change at the end of the system here, you'll see a cautionary note. Sometimes there's just a rest. These are the kind of musical ideas that are being developed. And here you'll see the next double nine, the tremolo, left, right hand, increase in tempo.
Yeah, so we're
so
just building...
the joke is getting faster and faster and faster. There are slurs here that provide smoother transition between different pitches.
Yeah, we're just breaking or creating a contrasting musical texture between the slurs and then the staccatos, just to create some texture and detail in the melody. And the intensity and frequency of notes is building. So by the end, before the Feynman point, we've got this kind of manic, hysterical kind of texture where the pianist is just like jamming away at like an interval of a second while playing this rhythmic figure in the left hand. So it kind of has this maniacal kind of quality to it at the very end. And then...
maniacally at 340.
Indeed. So it's pretty fast.
There is even, if that wasn't enough for you, there is an accelerate instruction to go even faster.
You're playing as fast as you can.
As fast as you can. What are these?
Okay, so this is it's called what is it called? Caesura, maybe. It's a break in the musical time. So when the performer sees this, they know to arrest the musical time before commencing the next musical.
Okay, and subito.
Suddenly quiet.
Suddenly quiet. Sounds rather ominous. And then we have this, and I believe that this is meant to be played as an arpeggio.
Yeah,
right?
as a broken chord.
As a broken chord.
Yeah.
So it rings out.
Yeah.
and so on.
So this is the B minor 13 chord that we had talked about earlier. These are all B minor 9 or 6/9. There's a 6/9 in here somewhere. And at the very end we have this B minor 13, which is a very unresolved, unresolved chord.
So it leaves you hanging.
And it leaves you hanging, and that represents the and so on, and so on.
And so on, and so on.